People, you should buy a 24-year-old bike, not a 5-year-old bike. More tech, more problems, mate. This is an engine, 2 wheels, a throttle, a choke, no traction control, no ABS, no nothing, mate. And it is the dream. I'm going to talk a little bit why I don't think you should buy a new bike, especially for your first one, man. It just, I don't know, man. Let me just get out of here quick. Just filled up. So, why I say that is because I've learnt so much more on this bike, not having ABS, not having traction control, not having wheelie control, not having all these modes and all these things to worry about. It's just been me, the throttle, the bike and the road. That is it. All the mistakes I've made, locking up the back wheel a few times, seeing how much I can push the corners in the wet, how much I can brake in the wet. You just learn so much more by only having an engine with no modes on it and no assists, because all these new bikes, they've got so much tech on them that half of the job's done for you. Do you know what I mean? Like, half of the bike is literally riding for you and you don't have to worry about slamming on the brakes, and then you will slam on the brakes because you know you've got ABS to save you. Do you know what I mean? It's a lot more, gives you a lot more excuses to be a bit lenient with the modes that are going to save you. Whereas this, there's no room for mistakes. You have to learn to be easy on the brakes and to go easy in the wet around the corners and maybe not floor it when you know the floor's a little bit slick, because there's nothing to save you. It's literally you or the floor. And as well, newer bikes, man, from the people that I've known, one, they all look the same. Let's be honest, all the new bikes look the same, especially when they're all lined up and everyone's got like black or grey bikes. They all look the same. This one stands out so much with the old decals and just the old styling. And then also, they're just always broken. All the guys I ride with, apart from the Jigsaw, they've all had issue. Actually no, apart from Greg either. And I think it's mostly down because there's just so much tech. There's so many sensors, there's so much this and that any little thing goes off, it throws the whole bike out of line, and then you've got to go find out what's wrong with it. This doesn't even have an ECU. There's no computer, so there's no electronics to go wrong. This thing will just keep going. You have to manually do the fuel on the warm-up with the choke here to sort of choke the fuel and get it revving higher. This thing will never have to worry about losing out on something because of a computer failure's gone wrong, because there's nothing on here. There is no computers. This will just keep running and running and running. You watch, I'll say that, I'll break down today. But I've never had an issue with this bike. This bike has always ran, always started, never had like some little sensor pop up, never had a check engine, because there's not much for like to go wrong. There's literally not much to go wrong on these older bikes. And the argument of, oh, do you need ABS? You need ABS, you need traction control. You don't. You really don't. I thought you needed it. When I was looking at bikes, I was so scared. I was like, yeah, but it has no ABS. It has no traction control. You rarely come encounters where you need it. And when you do, yes, obviously ABS does help you a lot. But still, I've had to slam on in the wet and I've been absolutely fine. Do you know what I mean? Because you just get used to how much brake pressure you do. You learn how much brake pressure. I could emergency stop at this junction right here. Pull this right down. Emergency stop. Absolutely fine. No issues whatsoever. Because I know I just need to be gentle on that brake and squeeze it. Yes, the front wheel could lock up if I just randomly now went bosh and grabbed a load of brake. But I don't do that because I know I don't have traction control and ABS, and I'm learning to not do that. So now I'm a lot easier on the brakes, and it just made me a better braker. Does that make sense? Because I don't have that privilege of relying on the ABS to save me, so I can be really bad on the brakes and not have to worry about it. And then traction control, we've ridden in the wet all the time. That was another thing that proper scared me. I was like, oh my god, no traction control. What's going to happen? Nothing's going to happen. If you ride like I am right now in the rain, don't lean it over like an idiot and absolutely swing loads of momentum into that back tyre, you're going to be fine. Nothing's going to happen. You're going to be absolutely fine. I've had a slight slip up every now and then with the back wheel in the wet, because like I might have just quickly done this on the throttle when I'm in second gear, do you know what I mean? And accidentally blipped it a little bit while leaning over or going over a drain, and I've had a little bit, I've had a little slip, because it doesn't cut power, it will just keep giving you power. But now I know, after those little mini slips, to be a lot smoother on the throttle, and my throttle hand is way more reliable going around corners now, because I don't have to be like, oh, it's alright, I could just hold the throttle and the bike will cut the power out and do traction control for me. No, I've learned to be smoother on the throttle, and I'm now controlling it, and I've got a lot more control over the bike. I'll tell you what another thing is as well, is the throttle. So this is, what is this? Is this cable? I think this is cable. There is so much more responsiveness from the bike on these older bikes, because that throttle is obviously cable throttle, so that is right there. It's not electronic, it's right there. That clutch is right there. I can feel the resistance through the clutch pushing against the accelerator on the cables, and I can feel it all in my hands. I know what it's pulling against and how much it's going to give me. I've revved a couple of, and I've ridden a couple of electronic bikes. My dad's got a bloody hydraulic clutch and all the electronic throttle on his. It's disgusting. I hate it. It's horrible. You can't feel anything. There's no feedback. It's the first thing I noticed. I had no feedback in that clutch or in that accelerator. It almost had a bit of a delay as well. That's right there. Sorry, I'm shouting. That is right there. That throttle is right there, and you can feel every little bit of it, which is why it helps with no traction control, because you know exactly what's going to be pulled on it when you pull on that throttle. Another reason is the price. The price of older bikes are just unmatchable compared to these new bikes that are popular. Take the MT-07. Yes, a good bike. Is it worth 5-6 grand? I would say probably not, to be honest. It could probably be a lot lower, because it's so popular and it's so new and everyone loves them. The price is up, and it's the same with a lot of bikes. Whereas these older ones, you can pick up a good classic, well built, well looked after bike for less than 2 grand. This was £1,800, and it is absolutely mint. I brought it with 26,000 miles on it. I'm now at, oh god, how much am I at now? 34,000 miles. So I've put on whatever the maths is on that. I actually thought I brought it with 24, but I think I'm wrong. I think it was 26 I brought it with. And it runs mint. Never had an issue. Never. This bike has not let me down once. My cars have let me down with electronics, sensors, all of that sort of shit, but not the bike, because there aren't any electronics. The only electronics is the lights and the indicators. Do you know what I mean? And the battery underneath me. That is it. There is nothing else to worry about. Insurance as well. Old bikes, the cheaper the price, but also the cheaper the insurance. I paid 800 for the year for my first bike. I know people that are paying like nearly 2 grand a year for their first bike, but that is because, again, this is an older bike. It's less popular. It doesn't have that stigma of being a crazy bike that everyone crashes on because everyone's got one. It's just, I don't know, man. Older bikes are just where it's at for me. I'm really, really, like, not in the mind space at all of even thinking about getting a new bike. Like, there's not one part of me that is like, I want a new bike with more updated stuff. I love this bike, and even riding other people's bikes that are more up to date and have all these electronics. Yes, I've only ridden them for like, what, half an hour to an hour, but I just instantly don't have that feeling from them. This bike has, like, I know it sounds cringy, but this bike has personality. You ride it and it reacts a certain way to you. It feels a certain way when you're actually riding the bike, because it's got all these little quirks, and because it's actually, you can feel what's going on. Do you know what I mean? And all bikes are different. And this one, you feel what is going on in the accelerator and the brakes and the clutch and everything. Whereas when you ride other bikes, they just feel like they've rolled out of a production line and they're just a little toy ready to go. But I don't really get much feeling from them. Do you know what I mean? They've not got much personality, for me anyway. So yeah, I don't even know what this rant was about. It was originally just going to be about not having to have ABS and traction control, but I was like, you know what, that just sort of sums up old bikes in general. Not having all these electronics is a lot better, trust me, especially for riding, for that real raw experience and to really learn what you're doing on a bike. An older bike for your first one, I really do think is a shout. It will save you a load of money, you'll learn a lot more, you'll stand out a lot more, and yeah, that's it really. Obviously find one that's, you know, reliable. Go for a Honda, I say. Go for this, mate. Save yourself some money. Get the 600F. This is the 2000 model, so the last of the carburetors. Go get a bike, people. Don't worry about no traction control, no ABS, all that sort of stuff. Subscribe if you like bike content. I'll make plenty of it. And yeah, man, group ride coming up 22nd of June, going to Guy Martin's pub. Follow my Instagram if you want to join the group chat for that. I'll leave you to it now. Goodbye. Yeah, that's it. See ya.